Well, got a little zero hedge for you. It will be really, really bad. China faces financial Armageddon with 85% of businesses set to run out of cash within 3 months. For the past 2 weeks, even as the market took delight in China's doctored and fabricated numbers showing the coronavirus spread was slowing, we warned again and again that not only was this not the case, which recent data out of South Korea, Japan, and now Italy confirmed, but that for all its assertions to the contrary, China's workers simply refused to go back to work, even with Foxconn offering its workers extra bonuses just to return to the factory, and as a result, the domestic economy had ground to a halt, as we described in the following 3 articles. Unfortunately, it's not getting any better, as the latest high-frequency updates out of China demonstrate. Also, unfortunately, it's getting worse, because as we explained several weeks ago, China is now fighting against time to reboot its economy. And the longer the paralysis continues, the more dire the outcome for both China's banks and local companies. And since it is no longer just scaremongering by conspiracy blogs, but rather conventional wisdom that China may implode, here is a summary of how the narrative that it will be over by mid-March is dramatically changing. Let's start with Chinese businesses. While China's giant state-owned SOEs will likely have enough of a liquidity lifeblood to last them for 2 to 3 quarters, it is the country's small businesses that are facing a head-on collision with an iceberg, because, according to the Nikkei, over 85% of small businesses, which employ 80% of China's population, expect to run out of cash within 3 months, and a third expect to be out of cash within a month, a single month. And, I think about this. China still has a bunch of United States debt. Boy, could you just see them liquidating their debt in a hurry. To get out of it, we need the money right now. Get out of those bonds, we need the money to help our economy and help whatever. And all of a sudden, China doesn't really have any more of our debt. Again, for each bad thing about this virus, there sure is some very interesting good things for certain parties about this virus. Should this happen, not only will China's economy collapse, but China's $40 trillion financial system will disintegrate, as it is suddenly flooded with trillions in bad loans. Take the case of Danny Liu, who last week reopened his aluminum facade panel factory in China's southern city of Dangang after an extended Lunar New Year break. To his shock, less than a third of its roughly 200 migrant workers showed up. Quote, they couldn't make their way back, the Hong Kong businessman said. Most of his workers hail from central western China, including 11 from Hubei province, the epicenter of the coronavirus outbreak that has killed more than 2,000 people. Many said they had been banned from leaving their villages as authorities raced to contain the epidemic. Liu's business had already been hurt by the 25% tariff on aluminum products the U.S. imposed in its tit-for-tat trade war with China. Now he worries the production constraints will give American consumers or customers another reason to cancel orders and switch to Southeast Asia suppliers. The virus is making a bad situation worse, he said. Liu is not alone. This same double blow is hitting small and mid-sized enterprises across China, prompting a growing chorus of calls for the government to step in and offer lifelines. The stakes could not be higher. These smaller employers account for 99.8% of registered companies in China and employ 79.4% of workers, according to the latest official statistics. They contribute more than 60% of gross domestic product, and, for the government, more than 50% of tax revenue. In short, they are the beating heart of China's economy. Companies like Liu's that have resumed some production are the lucky ones. Many factories and other businesses remain completely stalled due to the virus. Many owners have no other choice but pray that things return to normal before they careen off a financial cliff. Chinese street vendor transacting at more than an arm's length basis. And here is the stark reality of China's T-minus 3 month countdown. And by the way, which I'll show you the picture because this goes back to Cliff High stuff here. Chinese street vendor transacting at more than an arm's length basis. Here's one, here's the other. Cliff High's data, old data, talked about no more shaking hands, no more being real close to people. A new way of interacting would be coming for us humans. And look how many years ago that those reports were talking about this, his reports. Those were written off. Well, I guess that was a Webbot miss. And like old Jay Snip told you, every single time I read one of those reports, in summary, every single report I read, I always give that little disclaimer. Guys, I'm going to read this, and since I bought the thing, and I'm not going to give the whole thing out for free, obviously, for Cliff High's, it's his business, it's his paperwork, his document. He lets me do a summary. He said, Joe, keep it to about a half hour if you can. Great. I picked and choose what I wanted to read. Felt like, well, that might be important to most people, but maybe that won't be, But I still picked out plenty of stuff that was good, and I'm sure I talked about this when it was out. But I always said, it says this summer or next summer, guys, just take what I'm telling you, what I'm reading you, and store that in the back of your brain. Don't hold the dates and times that he puts into account. I've seen this Webbot have spectacular hits with the timing, and I've also seen it have spectacular hits not with the timing. Timing was way off. So just listen to what it's saying and maybe remember that so that if anything starts heading this way in the future, oh, hey, what did that Webbot say? I remember that. Even if it's 3 years later, 4 years later, whatever it is. Here is a prime example. People working at arm's length away, transacting. Oh, here we go. And here is the stark reality of China's T-minus 3-month countdown. 85% of 1,506 SMEs surveyed in early February said they expect to run out of cash within 3 months, according to a report by Tsinghua University and Peking University. And forget about profits for the foreseeable future. 1/3 of the respondents said the outbreak is likely to cut into their full-year revenue by more than 50%. Most SMEs in China rely on operating revenue, and they have fewer resources or sources for funding than large companies and state-owned enterprises, said Zhu Weizhang, a professor at Tsinghua University School of Economics and Management and a lead author of the report. The problem with sequential supply chains is that these also apply to the transfer of liquidity. Employers need to pay landlords, workers, suppliers, and creditors regardless of whether they can regain full production capacity anytime soon. Any abrupt and lasting delays will wreak havoc on China's economic ecosystem. The longer the epidemic lasts, the larger the cash gap drain will be, Zhou said, adding that companies affected by trade war face a greater danger of bankruptcy because many are already heavily indebted. Self-rescue will not be enough. The government will need to lend help. So, where are we nearly 2 months after the epidemic started? Well, as of last Monday, only about 25% of people had returned to work in China's Tier 1 cities, according to an estimate by Japanese brokerage Nomura, based on data from China's Baidu, not the cryptocurrency Baidu. This is Baidu, actually. By the same time last year, 93% were back on the job. And making matters worse, as we first noted several weeks ago, local governments around the country face a daunting question of whether to focus on staving off the virus or encourage factory reopenings, as the following tweet perfectly captures. Jennifer Zhang says, banner number 1 says, she's got 2 banners, if you go out messing around now, expect grass on your grave to grow soon. Banner number 2 says, sitting at home eats up all you have, I guess. Hurry up, go out and find a job. The slogan changes as frequently as they change the criteria for COVID-19 diagnosis. As long as the National Logistics Network is still in shambles, Nomura's chief China economist Liu Ting said there might be little to gain from rushing restarts, whereas the cost of a rebound in infections might be quite high. He expects economic activity to pick up again in a couple of months, although the longer Beijing fails to confidently put an end to the pandemic, the longer it will take for activity to return to normal. Meanwhile, the 3-month countdown clock is ticking. Don't tell that to Zhao Duan, the chairman of the Small and Medium Business Development Association in the city of Wenzhou, who knows this and agrees with this crisis is worse than SARS. I had to pause it for a second. Let me go back to that. As long as the national logistics network is still in shambles, Nuromo's chief China economist Lu Ting said, there might be little to gain from rushing restarts, whereas the cost of a rebound in infections might be quite high. He expects economic activity to pick up again in a couple of months, although the longer Beijing fails to confidently put an end to the pandemic, the longer it will take for activity to return to normal. Meanwhile, the 3-month countdown clock is ticking. Don't tell that to Zhao Duan, the chairman of the Small and Medium Business Development Association in the city of Wenzhou, who knows this and agrees that this crisis is worse than SARS. Far, far worse. In fact, he said it is the most severe of any crises in the 40 years since China embarked on major economic reforms. He sees not a double but a triple whammy, factoring in the economic slowdown the country was experiencing even before the trade conflict and the virus. Wenzhou, on the coast of Zhejiang province, was the first city outside Hubei put into full lockdown in an attempt to stop the pathogen. As of last week, Zhao said only factories that produce medical supplies had been allowed to resume work. What entrepreneurs need is confidence, he said, but first they need to survive. Yeah, that kind of helps. He's hoping the government will offer fiscal support and tax breaks to buy more time for small businesses. Some local governments have already responded to such pleas by waiving electric bills and delaying taxes, Social Security payments, and loans. But for some businesses, such relief measures are little consolation. Worst, last Sunday, the Communist Party's mouthpiece, the Global Times, suggested that instead of waiting for fiscal bailouts, Beijing will have no choice but to cut spending and unleash austerity, a move that would have catastrophic consequences for China. But even if Beijing does ease fiscally, it is unclear just what it can do short of printing money and handing it out to everyone. A tax reduction doesn't help if you don't have any income, said Zhou, who must somehow scrape together around 700,000 yuan or 100K for rent and the salaries of about 40 employees. Zhou reckons her company will lose about 3 million yuan in profit over the 2 months. Besides the postponements, couples that were looking at wedding options before the outbreak have put their planning on hold. There is little room, it seems, to think about love in the time of coronavirus. This is the most difficult time I have ever experienced. After 11 years of running the company, Zhou said, the worst part might be the uncertainty. She has no idea when the authorities might lift the ban or whether she can make it that long. All of this is unknown to us, she said. She is not alone. Wu Hai, owner of Mi KTV, a chain of 100 karaoke bars across China, took to the nation's premier outlet of discontent, social media platform WeChat, to voice his despair. KTV's bars have been closed by the government because of the virus, choking off its cash flow. The special loans from the authorities will be of little help, and no bank will provide a loan without enough collateral and cash flow, he said on his official WeChat account earlier this month. On WeChat, Wu gave himself 2 months before he has to shutter his business. It's not just Japan's flagship financial publication and owner of the Financial Times, the Nikkei, that is dramatically changing the narrative away from all shall be well. In its headline article today, Bloomberg writes that millions of Chinese firms face collapse if banks don't act fast, and described the plight of Brigitte, a director at one of China's largest car dealers, who is also running out of options. Her firm's 100 outlets have been closed for about a month because of the coronavirus. Cash reserves are dwindling, and banks are reluctant to extend deadlines on billions of yuan in debt coming due over the next few months. There are also other creditors to think about. Well, if you're the bank, you can't. See, this is the equivalent of a derivatives collapse in the derivatives market. One chain in the derivatives link goes down and the whole chain breaks, right? If you have all these people who can't work, profits aren't coming in, they can't pay their rents and or mortgages. So the banks isn't getting their money. Any of the banks, they're not getting their money. The person can't pay them. So the banks, we'll give you a couple of months leeway. Okay, fine. So the banks who have employees, who have investors, who have everything that they need money, they have office space that they got to pay. You know, banks have the biggest office space in the world. Every major city in the United States, there's all your big banks right there, the big towers and 100-story buildings. Oh yeah, Bank of America, Wells Fargo. They got bills to pay too. So one large chain link break, so to speak, and the whole effing system goes down. That's in China. Now, let's talk about America. How many things are made in China? I've talked a lot about this over the years. It's been quite a while since I really focused on it, though. And I used to say, just go to any of your stores. Any of your stores. Matter of fact, Walmart's a big one, huh? Go there. Not food, but everything else. Items you can take home and do something with. And just flip it over on the shelf right there on the spot and just see where that little tag is and says made in such and such country. More than 9 out of 10 times, honestly. We'll just go with 9 out of 10, 90%. It's going to say China. Made in China. Then let's focus on some of the things that are not made in China. But a key critical piece of that item was manufactured in China, shipped over here to, let's say, to America. Then the American manufacturer makes it and says, well, this was made in the USA. Even though it had one little part that was critical for this whole thing to work, of this product, was made in China. That one little part not coming in stops this company over here from producing their product. One little, little tiny chain link break screws the whole company. They have employees, they've got office space, etc. You might start seeing some problems here in America. People not going to be able to pay their bills, etc., etc., etc. What's that going to do to real estate? If you can't pay your bills, you can't pay your mortgage, you can't pay your rent. Sounds reminiscent of, I don't know, 2006, 7, 8, 9? Yeah, oh yeah. Some of the cheapest real estate you ever saw in your life happened around 2011, 2012. That was the after effect. So it took a couple years to catch up. And like I've said all this time with cryptocurrency. Guys, could you imagine if crypto was doing this way up and housing is doing this? Not only can you afford the house you wanted or maybe some property for residual income, but you got it cheaper. You weren't even paying fair market value. Your cryptos are exploding and the prices are coming down because, housing crash again. Again, it's a cyclical. Every 10 or so years, oh, here we go again. Then all of a sudden, Federal Reserve, Treasury, up. Ain't gonna be no more recessions here. Just keep pumping the markets up. You can pump the markets up all you want. You give this false narrative. Oh, yeah, look, housing's up, this is up, that's up. Okay, gotcha. But when people don't have money to pay stuff, there's no faking you can do ever. You'll never be able to fake it. Unless, like they said here, you just start handing out money to people. And again, we've been hearing about this universal basic income. We're going to trial it in a small country, a small area of 2,000 people there, a few thousand people there. We're trialing it. We're going to give them 2,000 euros a month. Where did that come from? Whose idea was that all of a sudden? And boy, oh boy, if this thing gets worse, wouldn't that help? Oh, well, you don't have a job. You can't go back because the government shut down travel. And oh, okay, that's all right. You're going to get your monthly stipend, if you will. Pay your bills, minimum bill payment, whatever. Have a nice day. But even if it's just the same amount for everybody, which again it should be. Hey, why did you I got to get $5,000 a month? Well, his house is worth $400,000. He has a bigger mortgage than you. How come I only get $2,000 a month? No, it would probably be cut across the board. Here's your money. Oh, well, that's not enough for me to make my mortgage payment. I still can't make the mortgage payment and buy food and everything else. Oh, well, I guess I'll stop making payments on my mortgage. The biggest nut you have to crack every month. So then you're going to have foreclosure. Again, housing collapse. I can only hope cryptos are exploding along with gold and silver if this event I'm telling you about as a possibility happens. Not that I want any of this to happen because it's not good news one way or the other. But if we saw stuff like this coming miles and miles ahead of everybody else years ago, not necessarily as a virus, But the outcome of this virus, we've been forecasting for a long time. Webbot especially. And I'm saying, okay, get your gold and silver, sit on that. Hey, crypto, hodl your crypto. You want to trade like me, some of it? Go for it. But don't you dare trade the whole bag in case you lose. For this possible day we're talking about here. And if this happens, and I'm like, oh my God, I thought I'd just buy a secondary rental property with, some crypto profits and pay off my house. Holy crap, I bought 4 properties because they crashed and cryptos went crazy high in the year 2020, and we weren't even expecting it that fast in 2020 to go up so quick. But since it did, I didn't cause the virus. I didn't cause anyone to lose their job. I didn't cause the housing crash, but I sure as hell prepared for it many years ago. And I tried helping other people on YouTube do the same. We have to wait and see where this is going to go. We got to wait and see where this goes. But you, of all people listening, all you listening, you should be able to see, even if you wait to the last minute, oh, I think I'm going to go get some prep items now. You should have a little more foresight than everyone else because you're paying attention to get your butt out there and get the stuff you need. Even if you're kind of procrastinating right now, I'm not real sure. Okay. I made preparations a long time ago. I've added a couple little things. Actually, we went to the store, went to Costco today, got a few small things. Quite small. And we're going to see what happens. I'm on well water also. So I don't have to worry about, city producing water. Not only that, I've got a lake close by. I'll go over there and bring a damn 5-gallon bucket and suck some of that water right out if I have to. So I don't see that being necessary. It's not like the electricity shouldn't go down. You know what I mean? Like, you can have all these problems and the electricity still works. Just like in China, the electricity is working. Services are working. People are just out of a job right now, and they're not working for income. But their electric's on. You know what I mean? So, anyways, a little bit more to the article, but I think the point's pretty clear. And again, I know Cliff High is very, very concerned. I have never seen Cliff High so concerned about anything as this. Gonna be honest with you. Take care.